You're listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and SoundCloud. There's three things I want to cover today. I thought we would talk about the first college football rankings. Obviously, that's pretty pertinent. I thought we'd have a quick preview of Maryland, and then as I mentioned earlier, we got a few mailbag questions. Maybe we can get to those toward the end.
Predictions, and then a little maybe a Bama LSU prediction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. We'll do a Bama LSU prediction as well.
All right, cool.
So
lead it off, Z.
All right, so the first rankings are out. They came out Tuesday, as you guys know, and Ohio State is number one in the rankings, followed by LSU, Bama, and then kind of a surprise, Penn State at number 4, which I was a little surprised by that. You've got Clemson there at number 5, kind of on the outside looking in for now, although they're still in a really good spot. You got Georgia at number 6. And then you've got two Pac-12 teams, Oregon and Utah, have kind of made their way back into the discussion, into the playoff discussion. I just want to get your guys' initial take on the rankings and what you saw. Paige, why don't I start with you? What were your impressions when you saw those first rankings come out?
Yeah, so the Buckeyes being first, I think was awesome. I think what they're doing, though, I think the committee has gotten very political, right? Mm-hmm. They understand they're looking ahead, right, of the games scheduled, and Ohio State being number 1, yeah, we deserve to be number 1. LSU could have been there, but, when you look at strength of schedule and that kind of stuff, it's sort of a coin flip. The interesting one to me was the Penn State, right, at 4. So Penn State's sitting at 4. And they know, look, it does not hurt you to put them there because they are making a statement around who you play actually matters. And it's a shot across the bow, I think, to Clemson. And into some level,
I love that.
Yeah, totally, for Alabama. And so that to me was so play it forward, right? If Penn State beats Ohio State, like, hey, we look brilliant. If they lose to Ohio State and these other teams move up, it's not like this most radical sort of thing. They understand that, I don't know, people get all wrapped around the axle as far as how these rankings look right now, but these teams are going to play each other, and everything will kind of come out in the wash. The other interesting thing to me is that at Alabama 3, how much wiggle room do they have if they lose to LSU?
That's a really good question. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a really good question.
Those are the two things. So to answer your question, the Buckeyes, yeah, it's awesome. We'd love it. This is the South Stands. It's great. But the Penn State at 4 and Alabama at 3, we all know Clemson's going to be in. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah.
But they put them at 5. They give themselves cover. And they're going to be in because they're not going to play anybody. But the other two are the sort of the interesting thing.
Chad,
go ahead, Chad. I was going to say, when we spin the wheel around to me, now, I 100% agree with you there, Paige, aside from the fact that I think when we play Penn State, Clemson has a bye, okay? But the week that we play Michigan, they play South Carolina.
Oh, yeah. That's a
and
good
if
point.
I'm not mistaken, it's in South Carolina. I could be wrong on that, but
I'll look it up.
That's a game that could play like a very integral part on this. But you know what? I love the fact that Ohio State finally gets some respect.
Yeah.
And they put it to number 1 because, if you look at the body of work, and I was I really was kind of blown away by the whole thing when I found because I didn't realize that our strength of schedule versus the top 5 teams is the best of the 5.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that as well.
I wasn't aware of that at all, but so
So can I throw a little salt in your spinner wheel there, though? Like, what if Cincinnati would have lost that game to whoever, East Carolina? Dude, that was huge for us.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
It was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was very close to happening. By the way, Chad,
Cincinnati is saving our ass right now.
Well, you know who else is too is Indiana.
Indiana.
Right.
Yeah. Chad, just to back you up, you are right. Clemson finishes the season at South Carolina. That game is being played.
All right. So, you know what? I mean, we'll get into that when we do like our Michigan preview on that Thursday. That's actually Thanksgiving, so we'll probably do it on Wednesday. But there'll be a lot of talk about that game. But I'll tell you what, that's not going to be a walk in the park for Clemson when they come to that. I mean, yeah, I know like they're talented all over the field and this and that, but they haven't impressed me. I've watched them twice this year, and Trevor Lawrence, I think he's got the sophomore slump, but I'm sure they're going to be solid, but I'm telling you, that's not going to be an easy game for them. I mean, they beat Georgia, dude. I mean, like that's got a lot to say. Yeah. Now, going back to your point, Paige, about Penn State, and you know what, I know we were like back and forth on the text on the podcast thread the last few days about Penn State, and I know you feel that they're not that good, but I listened to Herb Street, and then I read again what he was saying the other night. I'm telling you, man, I think they're better than what people, I mean, obviously the committee believes that they're good, strength and schedule wise, but Turks, like he said, they're rotating in 4 different running backs, and they've got probably top 3 best wide receivers in college football, and that I can't remember what his name is. It's like that buddy warm and fuzzy story. Yeah, we started playing football. Junior high shit, but that kid's legit.
KJ Hamler is the guy you're talking about.
Exactly. Thank you, Z.
Yeah.
But I mean, and Paige, going back to a point you made, man, I really love the fact that I listened to that. He's the athletic director at Oregon. He's now like the committee chair for the CFP, and I think the strength of schedule, which it should be, is becoming a predominant factor in this whole thing.
Yeah,
and
that's a big emphasis.
If you look at the body, So I mean, I love it, but I'm
what do you think,
excited, man.
Yeah. So Paige, I think you made a good point about a shot being fired across the bow of Clemson and the fact that they're playing in the AC. Well, one, that they didn't look impressive earlier in the season, and they kind of slept walk through some of those earlier games.
State last week.
Right, exactly. And I do think it's a message about the conference that they play in, and that there isn't a ton of margin for error for Clemson. I think they kind of made the same statement to Alabama as well. I think both Alabama and Clemson were kind of put on notice in these initial rankings that neither has a ton of wiggle room or the kind of benefit of the doubt maybe both programs enjoyed in previous years. So, Paige, I think you were smart to point that out. I agree with you. The other observation I had was, well, it was interesting because there was the debate that came down Ohio State to LSU, the strength of schedule question, where on the surface it looked like LSU with the trip to Texas and the wins over Florida and also Auburn, that one would think their overall strength of schedule would be stronger than Ohio State. But I guess start to finish, or at least through those first 8 games, Ohio State technically has a slightly higher strength of schedule. That was surprising. But it wasn't only that. I think it's the way that Ohio State has looked. If you look at all the statistical measures that the committee really kind of values, Ohio State is at the top 3 in virtually every statistic that really matters. Like the yards per play measure, the scoring defense and scoring offense and margin of victory, game control, things like that. Ohio State is across the board in all those statistics. Yeah, really high.
I think we're 1 and 2 and like 2 or 3 of them, and like we're 3rd and like a couple of the other ones. So,
yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned Penn State. I'm a little bit more skeptical, Chad, than you are about Penn State. I just kind of feel like, well, certainly they've got a good defensive team. I still have questions about their offense, though. They don't run the ball particularly well. I know you mentioned that they have kind of a a stable of running backs that they like to go to. But Penn State is only averaging about 4.4 yards a carry in the run game. Noah Cain is their leading rusher. He only averages about 5 yards a carry. He's got 350 yards so far this season. They're a little paltry in the run game, and I'm not sure about Sean Clifford, their quarterback. He's got some nice glossy numbers, 20 touchdown passes to 3 INTs. But I don't know. I want to see a little bit more from him.
You know what the beautiful thing about it is, Steve? You know what the beautiful thing about it is? We're going to see what they're fucking made of this weekend. Because I want to see what PJ Fleck's going to bring in when they come to Minnesota this weekend.
Yeah,
that's going to that's going to really tell us and like the country what Penn State's all about.
Yeah.
But is it? I mean, Minnesota's not good. Let's just be honest. They're just
it's a good point.
To some level, I agree with you, Chad, but on some levels, I don't. And the other thing about Penn State, I agree with you 100%, Zach. I am not a fucking believer. I watched the second half of them against Michigan. Michigan was the way better team. Mm-hmm. Penn State hung on for dear life. They have one player. So all you have to do with him is go a little Bill Belichick and say, I'm going to take that guy away from you, make someone else beat us.
Yeah.
Clifford's not beating you. It's not fucking happening. It's not.
Yeah, right. and Hamler, you stick Jeffrey Okudah on that kid Hamler. I'm telling you, that kid's going to have one catch.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they can't run the ball.
Agreed.
They can't run the ball. There's no Saquon Barkley on that team this year, and I don't know that bodes well for them in Columbus. They do play good defense though. I don't know. I still feel like the jury's out on that.
I would like it for the record to be known that I'm not like on this big Penn State bandwagon, but I'm saying like the way that the CFP committee is doing it this year, I believe that strength of schedule and who they played, that they,
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
You can flip a coin between them, but I'm comfortable with where they are. Do I think that like when they come to Columbus and like on the 23rd, are we gonna like kick their ass? Yeah, I honestly believe we will. But I'm saying the way things are set up this year and how they're like, putting this, votes together, I feel like they should be where they are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree with you. I think there's clearly a reward or an emphasis on strength of schedule and who you've played so far. That's evident in where they've placed, Ohio State, LSU, and Penn State in particular. I totally agree with you. The other observation I wanted to make, now I've lost it. I was going to make a point. Now I've forgotten. Well, we'll come back to it. Yeah, we'll come back.
So the last thing I'll say about Ohio State is that there's no look test needed. They've crushed fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The closest game was the Lane Kiffins at Florida A&M or whatever. I mean,
isn't that crazy? Yeah, it really was.
That is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
And I love a quote that Brian Day made this week. Like he said, we don't care. He basically pretty much, we don't give a shit about the college football playoff rankings.
It's for the fans.
That's for the fans. Yeah. I love that, dude. I'm telling you, man, I've been saying this all year, D&D, like in Paige. Like, I love that motherfucker, dude. He is the guy. He's the man, dude. He is like the blind assassin, dude. I love him, dude.
Yeah, well, so far it's hard to argue with the results. He's been exactly what this program needs so far. I remember the point I was going to make. If you remember last year, after the Big Ten was left out again out of the playoff field, a 13-1 or 12-1 Big Ten champ was left out of the field again. You remember Jim Delaney made a big stink about the Big Ten being left out, the Big Ten champ 2 years in a row, and I wonder how much of that this committee heard, because now you've got two Big Ten teams in the top four.
Which I
wonder how much of that is the long reach of Jim Delaney. We'll see if Penn State can stay there. Paige, you made a point about Minnesota and their strength of schedule, and I totally agree, and I think most people do, and clearly the committee does. It's an 8-0 Big Ten team, but they're all the way down at 17th in the playoff rankings. So clearly, they've got a lot of work yet to do, and I think they closed the season. 3 of their last 4 games are Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. Not necessarily in that order, but 3 of those last 4 are against those teams.
Yeah, Iowa and Wisconsin play this weekend.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing for Minnesota, Z, is that I'm telling you, PJ Fleck, man, he's got an energy that, like, I think he's got that program. They were down, like, they were like, like, rah, rah, like, and he's brought an energy to that whole, like, program. And I wouldn't doubt if they give Penn State a good game. I don't think they'll beat them, but I think they're going to, like, play them tight.
I agree with you. Do you think Penn State covers in that game?
What's the line?
I think it's a 6-point, a 6.5 point. Penn State -6 or 6.5, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look it up.
Now that everything we've talked about, like leading up to this, isn't that fucked up? That Penn State is going into Minnesota, who's ranked number 4 in the first week of the college football playoff rankings, and they're only laying 6 or 6.5.
It's 6.5 according to ESPN.com.
That's fucked up, dude.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
How about PJ Fleck getting the big extension earlier this week?
Dude, I know, man. They're like, and that's all on him. It's not on the Minnesota. Like, I mean, I don't want to take away from the Gopher football team, but like, I mean, that's like they're giving like some big what-ups to like PJ Fleck on that.
I mean, or could it have been maybe rumors circulating that Florida State might go after Fleck after they shit-canned?
Fleck he just signed that extension through 2026.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did see that, but I think, it was several days before that or over this past weekend that Florida State shit-canned what's-his-face, their head coach. And then the rumors started to swirl.
Total reaction.
Yeah, total reaction to that.
I know, but I think...
Dude, this is fucking Notre Dame giving Charlie Weiss the 10-year extension. I'm sorry.
But all right, but on the flip side of that, PVH, I feel that PJ Fleck has such a fucking like ego that he's like, I'm gonna fucking turn Minnesota into a powerhouse. So I mean, I tend to agree with you like somewhat, but I feel like he's got such an ego. Like, listen, I'm in the Big Ten, Minnesota. I am gonna fucking make this.
That's great. You could have the biggest fucking ego on the planet. I've got Sean Wade and Chase Young, and you've got fucking Timo Moss.
Well, no, I agree with you there, dude. I 100% agree with you there, dude.
A Timo Moss reference. I did not see that coming. That's awesome.
I didn't either.
Awesome.
I mean, that
love that.
Came from the deep recesses of my cranium.
Of 2001. I love it. I agree with you, though, Chad. First of all, I agree with you because I do think Minnesota is pretty good. I was actually impressed with what they did when they came into the shoe last year and played us pretty tough. Now, it's well documented. We had some issues on defense, but I thought they played us pretty well in the shoe last year. They had a good, strong finish to the year. They beat the pants off of Wisconsin last year in Madison. And I'm not a huge believer in Penn State. I think they've got some holes. I could totally see this being a close game. I'm looking forward to it. I agree with you, Chad. I think this could be a good game. I'm not calling the upset, but I think it could be a good game.
No. I'm not ready to like throw out a score for that. I mean, but there's we're playing at noon, which that's going to be a snore. But then you got Penn State and Minnesota at noon.
I know.
And then like Alabama and LSU is at 3:30.
Yeah, I love it.
And the night game is like Clemson and some other bullshit. I don't know who it is, but like the college football this weekend is not impressive. Aside from the the SEC matchup with LSU and Bama at 3:30.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, we'll get to those in a second.
All right, so
let's move on to just a quick preview of Maryland. And what can you say? Let me just throw some.
We're
numbers.
Gonna have to edit like 3/4 of that out. We're at 27 fucking minutes. 18 minutes of it was on fucking Penn State and Minnesota.
Okay, PVH, I 100% agree with you. Like we're really there's really nothing to talk about the Terrapins. Keandre Jones, he couldn't make it as a linebacker at Ohio State. He's going to try to make a point. I'm going to throw out my prediction right now.
Well, hang on a second, Chad. Before you do that, hang on 1 second. Let me just throw a couple numbers out there just to kind of set some context here, and then we'll go to predictions. All
right, brother.
All right, great. So Maryland is 3-6, and they started. This is after starting out 2-0. They had a 79-zip win over Howard in the opener, a 63-20 win over then numbered 21 Syracuse, and since then they've lost 6 of 7. They're currently on a 4-game losing streak. Last week, as you guys know, they lost at home 38-7 to Michigan. Although that was a little bit more of a game in the first half than I expected. The week before, they lost 52-10 to PJ, the Fighting PJ Flex. Earlier, late September, they lost a Friday night game, 59-zip to Penn State.
Sounds so much better than the Gophers.
Their only win since their 2-0 start is a 48-7 win at Rutgers. What does that say about Rutgers? I don't know. I don't even know why they're in the Big Ten. That's another conversation for another day. Just to give you the stat that everybody likes to cite these days is yards per play. The Maryland offense is 88th in the country in yards per play with 5.1 yards per play. By comparison, Ohio State is 8th in the country at 7 yards per play. They're 90th in the country in scoring offense, 23.4 per game. By comparison, Ohio State is 2nd in the country, 48 points per game. The Maryland defense, 97th in the country in yards per play. They're giving up almost 6. They're giving up just over 6 yards per play defensively. By comparison, Ohio State's number 1 in the country, allowing 3.4 yards per play. The Maryland defense, 101st in scoring defense, allowing 34 points a game. That's insane. That's what they average. They allow 34 points per game. Ohio State, by comparison, is number 1 in the country, allowing 7.9 yards per game. Ohio State is 5-0 all-time in this series. They're outscoring the Terps 277-120 combined in those games. Now, mind you, of the 120 points the Terps have scored in this series, they scored 51 of them in last year's game, which is pretty ridiculous. I still have PTSD from the Maryland game last year. In my mind, that's a game Ohio State lost. I consider that a loss. You had, what was it? We all remember the 535 yards of total offense Maryland put up in that game, 339 on the ground. Maryland tailback Anthony McFarland. Remember that? McFarland went all Tim Biakapatuka on us.
Scratcher.
Yeah, I mean, McFarland went all Tim Biakapatuka on us for 298 yards on 21 carries. He averaged 14 yards a carry. He had TD runs of 81 and 75 yards. There was a good piece by Doug Lesmarie, if you guys haven't read it, on Cleveland.com today, where he talked about that.
Your boy Doug?
My boy Doug. Paige likes him too. Doug's not too bad.
I do. I like him.
It was an interesting piece, and he talked about what a program-changing game that was. It really changed the direction of this program. Last year's game, remember, Maryland was lining up for a 2-point conversion to win that game. They had a guy wide open in the end zone. They couldn't convert. Ohio State hangs on and wins. The next week, of course, is the big win at Michigan, and the program seemed to kind of take a turn. The trajectory of the program seemed to turn on that game. And so it's very interesting. A lot of things really could have changed if you think about it, not just what happened with Ohio State, but that would have propelled Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, into the Big Ten title game. So things.
I think my flesh-colored yarmulke grew like about another inch on each side. That fucking week.
So very, very interesting that performance last year. It was one of 2 really low points in the Urban Meyer era. So those are the numbers. Why don't we go ahead, Chad? I know you're chomping at the bit to give a prediction. Why don't you go ahead, man?
All right. So I see this. I see J.K. Dobbins not playing anywhere past the second quarter in this game. I'm going to keep him for the Penn State game. I see this going at 49-6.
49-6. Okay, so the Buckeyes cover.
49-6. Right. I definitely see him cover. Now, I will like our boy Sloaner, who is just an amazing addition to the South Stands podcast. Going to throw his prediction out for him, and he's throwing out 59-6.
All right.
And I got one more real quick. My lost boy, my man Max Manalo, got opportunity to speak with him tonight. He's throwing out 49-14. The Bucks.
Okay. All right. PVH?
What was Sloaner's prediction, Chad?
59-6.
59-6.
I'll take 58-7 then.
58-7. Okay.
No, you're not gonna do like 48 2.
No, I would. Yeah. No.
72-2.
Yeah. This game is. I mean, If Maryland doesn't forfeit by noon, I'll be
yeah. By 12:15.
Totally. Fuck it. We're just going to the bar, get some blue crab, and
they're gonna invite the Turtles over to the varsity club.
And not even let's just do the 2-week fucking forfeit with Rutgers. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, so Ohio State, by the way, I forgot to mention the line in this game. It's come down a bit. Ohio State is a 43.5 point favorite, down from 44.
Wow.
I'm taking Ohio State 63-14.
Wow, Z, I love it, dude.
63-14.
I love the 63.
I want to see how this team looks now that they have the number 1 ranking. Okay, so they've through the first 8 games, this team has been more like I think, living off of the idea that they've been underestimated with the departure of Urban Meyer and Dwayne Haskins.
And
now that
after I hear you saying 63, dude, I'm not gonna like state my own prediction again, but I love hearing that out of you, and the reason why is because exactly what you're saying right now. I think Ryan Day is going to keep the gas on the pedal because you have LSU and Alabama playing this weekend. The winner of that game, the committee is going to have almost a I don't know, like a pressure to put them at number 1.
And they will. The winner of that game is going to be number 1 in next week's rankings, and that's fine. They're going to jump Ohio State, and that's totally fine. But for this week, I mean, clearly the committee has spoken. The people whose opinions matter the most have recognized Ohio State as an elite team. So now I want to see how they handle that. They can't, and I expect that they'll handle it just fine. I think there's plenty of experience and leadership in that team.
Obviously, 63-14.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to handle it fine. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle the expectations and the mantle of a number 1 ranking.
Old score?
It could be. I don't know. Is it 63-14? I'm recycling an old Maryland score.
Yeah. That was from the deep recesses of your brain. I think that's an old score.
Could be.
I could be wrong.
Could be 63-14. I want to give a quick prediction for my father-in-law, Ken Meyer. He likes Ohio State 72-6. I mean, that's like 72-6 is like an old.
He's still riding that high from the boys' weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
The Monday.
It's interesting. That's like a score from like the 80s when we beat Northwestern like a drum, where it was just anyway. So good for him. 72-6. We'll see if that comes to fruition. The question is, will the starters be in long enough to put up those numbers? But then again, maybe it won't matter. Maybe the second team will be able to just
right.
I mean, it's
like a shitty backup running back. We have Master Teague,
Hey guys, look, I know it's getting late, and I thought, why don't we take a crack at the LSU Bama game as well with a prediction, if you'd like. The line in that game, it's Bama -6, and the word around the campfire is that Tua's going to play, that he's looked good in practice. Tua's going to play 6.5. Sorry, the line is 6.5. Alabama -6.5. Chad, I'm going to kick it over to you. How do you see this one playing out? Give me your score prediction.
I'm taking LSU 38, Bama 35. LSU will cover.
I like that.
I mean, that's a given. But I say they win the game outright. And
going
back to my boy Max Manalo, he's saying Bama 42, LSU 35. So he's going the opposite direction of me.
That's crazy how things have changed just within the game, not only across the game, but within the SEC. That I think most of us are expecting a pretty high scoring affair between these two teams, and traditionally it's been like neither team could get to 14 points.
I 100% agree, Z. But like Bama's got some of the best receiving, one of the best receiving cores in the country. But their defense is suspect, and Burrow. I mean, their offense, they're both defenses are suspect. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think Burrow's going to come out on top.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a down year defensively for both programs, and both offenses look like Big 12 offenses. It's really weird. I mean, It's almost like an Oklahoma-Texas game than an LSU-Bama game. Paige, why don't you give me a score prediction and tell us how you see this one playing out?
I have no opinion. I've seen neither team play, so I'm going to tell you what I want to see rather than what I think is going to happen.
Nice, I like it.
A 30 to 10 beatdown by the Joey Burrows, and then I just want to see the Alabama fucking people freak the fuck out for not making the playoff for the first time. That's what I want to see.
I want the greenhouse having a total meltdown, dude.
Just a meltdown. I mean, come on. Anyone on this podcast that isn't picking the Joey Burrows needs to be kicked off the podcast. Chad, I'll give you a chance to reevaluate.
Yeah, dude.
Want to reevaluate?
I love Joey Burrow, dude. They're going to win the game, dude.
All right, so Chad,
they're going to do it.
Yeah,
they're going to do it. I part of me, I want it, but LSU's got a hell of a shot, and so that to me, I want chaos. I want fucking chaos in this whole thing, and I think the other interesting thing is just the political nature of how the committee is looking at these games and looking at the upcoming schedule and what happens, right? Mm-hmm. If Alabama loses this game, and we all know the machine will just go into fucking hyperdrive, just meltdown mode, and it'll be great to watch. So I want an LSU beatdown, so I'm calling 30 to 10, or if that's not what I said before, I don't give a shit.
You said 30 to 10. I'm going to log that as your official prediction.
Z, before you make your prediction, can I say one real quick thing?
Go ahead, Chad.
I love that text that Timmy threw out today, and I don't know who it was from or who it was like, but it was a legitimate point about like if Ohio State were to lose to Penn State and then kick the shit out of the Michigan, it would be very hard for them to keep us out of the playoff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, we do have our mailbag questions to get to at the end of this, guys. And there's one question. Maybe we just do one of them, but there's one question from the mailbag that kind of addresses that a little bit, Chad.
Nice.
The game is in Tuscaloosa, and Tua's going to play. And we just don't know. I don't know how effective he's going to be. LSU has looked good, for sure. Throwing the ball, with the offense with Joe Burrow, and obviously I have a soft spot in my heart for Burrow as a former Buckeye. It's hard for me to bet against Alabama in this game if Tua's going to play. And God, I hate to say it, but this is where Nick Saban is so dangerous. When everybody's, although granted he's a 6.5 point favorite. Bama, for the first time in how many years, is not the number one team in the initial college football rankings. Is he going to use that as additional motivation? Don't kick me off this podcast, guys. I'm going Bama 27-24 in this one. That's not what I want to happen. I would love to see a decisive Bama blowout, which would probably eliminate them if they lose decisively at home to LSU, would probably eliminate them as a one-loss non-champ candidate to get into the playoff, which is what I'd love to see. Paige, I'm with you. I got Bama in this one, 27-24.
Wow.
Because Tua's going to play.
One real quick PVH, one quick comment. You don't think those boys down south that on that defensive line for the Tigers are going to be going for that ankle, do you?
Of course.
Well, that's very possible.
They're going to be chewing on that thing, dude. They're going to be everything they can do.
All right. Hey, listen, guys. So we do have our first set of questions for the mailbag. They're from the same user.
Nice.
Maybe we do one or two of these. I know it's getting late, but these are our first questions. We have to answer a couple of these. The name of the user, you guys might. I don't know if you guys know him. His name's Mike Corcoran. Name sounds familiar. Mike Corcoran.
Yeah,
I don't know if that rings a bell.
Yeah.
He's got a set of 4 questions here. I don't think we'll have time to go through all of them. Well, here's one. Week in and week out, you and your guests have addressed and highlighted this Bucs team's many strengths. What weaknesses, if any, do you see with this team? And he says in parentheses, I have to admit, I'm having a hard time finding one. Paige? What weaknesses, if any, do you see with this team?
Tough Portland, right? I mean,
Tough Portland.
It's it's still our linebackers, as good as Browning's been. That's the one. So it's a great question, Mikey. Happy to have your sister here. But I look at this team like where they're not pro players all up and down this team.
Yeah,
that's the one position where you can we might only have one pro there. So it's got to still be the linebackers. And I'm sorry, Tuff, I take it back. I mean, I've been piling on you forever, but that's the place.
Chad, what do you think? What weaknesses, if any, do you see with this team?
Okay, like prior to me making my answering Mike Corcoran's question is the fact that I'm sitting here with the biggest smile on my face as like just seeing him, like, what state of mind he's in, what he's writing these questions down into the podcast.
They're very organized. Yeah, very organized.
Mikey, I know, I love it, dude. Like, he's just sitting there probably with the biggest smile on his face. Like, I just love it. But I would tend to agree with Paige there. With Tuff, but you know what? I think they're already making adjustments for that. But I'm going to say, like, how quickly our offensive line starts out the game. Mm-hmm. Because, like, you know, a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, shit. Really? I mean, I think, like, the offensive line, I mean, I think they're one of the best in the country once they get gelling. But, like, I feel like they just, at the beginning of the game, they're a little tense, a little wound up, and I feel like as long as they're all in synchronous, we'll be good. But I feel like they just need to be on the big, on the same line for the big games coming up in the end of November.
Okay, so slow starts by the offensive line, I think, is what you're saying. That's kind of a weakness. Yeah. Okay, yeah, and along those same lines, I would say that Ohio State's given up a lot of sacks. And I think most of at least 50-50 is Justin Fields hanging onto the ball too long. And I think some of that you live with because he's so good at extending plays and in keeping a play alive and finding guys downfield that you have to live with a little bit of that because you don't want to impede or get in the way of his playmaking ability. So you have to live with some of that. But I do feel like maybe he could curb a little bit of that. He's taken a sack or two probably every game this year that didn't need to happen because he's held onto the ball a little too long. He's been a little too nonchalant.
That he found.
Yeah, so that if I had to nitpick, I would say, that's where I would identify.
So is that on Justin Fields or is that on the offensive line?
No, I think it's on Fields, in my opinion. I think there have been a couple of maybe blown against Wisconsin. There were a couple of delayed blitzes that Jim Leonard called that I thought were really well called that our offensive line didn't pick up. But there were also a couple where Fields was just a little too he held onto the ball a little too long, and we've seen that I think at least once in every game so far this year. So I would say maybe that's one weakness. Mike,
Mike's one more question of Mikey's.
Do we have
3 questions?
Do we have time for one more question, Paige?
One more.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. All right. So Mike asks, do we foresee a scenario where Ohio State does not make the 2019 college football playoffs? Paige, I'm going to start with you. What needs to happen for Ohio State not to make the playoff?
Lose to Rutgers. I mean, there's a plethora of reasons why we don't make the playoffs. Lose to Penn State.
Right.
Come on, Mike. Your first question was way fucking better. Do better.
Yeah, dude. That was fucking weak.
All right. Man. All right. So I'm going to.
All right. Go to question 3.
Question 3. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Paige.
So the next question. He asks, I'm not sure it has not escaped your notice that the Bucs are sitting atop the college football rankings at number 1. Thank you, Mike. We did notice, but thanks for reminding us. First,
Mikey's Corner. This is good. This is now going to be called Mikey's
Corner
of every podcast.
Mikey's Corner. I love it, dude.
First, is this a surprise to you? I think we could all answer no. It wasn't a surprise. We all had an inkling they would be in the top 2 at least, and I wasn't hugely surprised that they ended up number 1. Second, Ohio State will no doubt come in as a heavy favorite in each of their remaining 4 games. Which game do you see as the biggest pitfall in November/December? We kind of answered this at the mid-year pod, but let's go ahead and answer it again. He gives us a multiple choice answer to his question. So
wow,
here we go.
Creative one.
Here we go. Which game do you see as the biggest pitfall in November/December? The choices are A, Maryland or Rutgers, B, Penn State at home, C, Michigan in Ann Arbor, or D, the Big Ten championship game. Paige, I'm going to start with you, and I think I know what your answer is because it's going to be my answer too, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's Michigan.
It's Michigan.
We're going to have our hands full. It's going to be a tough game. I think everybody needs to start preparing for it. It's not that Michigan's going to be, we're not going back to John Cooper. Those days are over. We can cleanse the palate of that. But that's going to be a tough game. And the other thing is, we never know what the weather is going to be. It could be brutally whatever, snowstorm.
Yeah.
That's going to be our toughest game.
It's interesting because Don Brown has already started talking. I don't know if you guys saw the quote that I sent you today. This is from thewolverine.com, and I quote, this is Don Brown. This is Don Brown, the defensive coordinator of the Michigan Wolverines. And I quote, they better be careful now because we're hitting our stride too. This is a two-way street, and I know our guys will be ready in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He's already talking about this game. I love it. They just never learn these guys.
Good.
They never learn.
You know what's great? It's really great that Michigan is starting to put a priority on this game 3 weeks into it. Way to go, Don. Beautiful. Yeah. That's so awesome, coaching.
Chad, which of Mike's multiple choices that he's given us will you select? I'm going to go through the choices again. A, Maryland or Rutgers. B, Penn State at home. C, Michigan in Ann Arbor. Or D, the Big Ten championship game.
I'm going to go with A, Rutgers.
Love it.
Wow.
But you know what's so funny,
Trap game, Rutgers.
Trap game, man. It's a quicksand sandbox of the guys up from New Jersey, but I would say, honestly, it's obviously Michigan. I mean, they've got nothing to lose, man. Harbaugh's, his whole reputation's, on the line for this game, man. They want to knock off the number one team, but what's so funny is that it's so funny because their fan base, I'll make this real quick. On Buckeye today, but Ohio State's on 24/7 sports is the highest revenue. Michigan is losing money because their fan base is all leaving the site. It's insane, dude. But my answer is Rutgers, but I will say Michigan as well. They've got nothing to lose. Harbaugh needs this win more than the NFC Championship the 2 times he was there. So, but
All right. So you say Michigan as well.
Can't wait for that week.
So when we discussed this at the midseason pod, Paige, I agreed with you that Michigan was the game that I was worried about the most because there is the very real possibility that Ohio State or that Michigan could be seeing a diminished Ohio State team coming off what should be a very competitive game against Penn State, or so we think. I'm going to stick with Michigan, although I'm going to feel stupid, and maybe I'm going against my better instinct, because if you look at the last 3 matchups with Penn State, it was a 1-point game last year. It was a 1-point game in 2017. We had to come way from behind to win that game in the shoe. You guys remember that game. And then back in 2016, it was I think it was a 3-point game or a 4-point game. Ohio State lost on a late blocked field goal in that game. So the last 3 have been very, very competitive. James Franklin gets his teams up for this game. His teams seem to be prepared. They come in with a good game plan. I'm going against my better instinct and also agreeing with you guys that Michigan is going to be the tougher test. I think Brian Day is going to take a different approach to the Penn State game this year. It's in the shoe. I think we win that one decisively or somewhat decisively. We'll see. But the Michigan game also worries me, especially if they start figuring out that, hey, they've got these great wide receivers. It would be a dereliction of duty if they don't call 5 or 6 deep balls to Nico Collins in that game. Because that guy, he comes down with it every single time.
But one thing Patterson hasn't seen all year is a guy like Chase Young and our defensive line coming at him either.
Well, so Zach, that's a fascinating sort of take on it, and I think the issue is that the three of us we lived through the Cooper years, and so we're just completely conditioned to worry about Michigan. Whereas the actual data would just speak completely opposite to that. Like, we should be way more concerned about Penn State.
Right.
I agree.
Exactly. Good point, Paige.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we're talking about a Michigan team that got absolutely destroyed by Wisconsin. And, what did we do with Wisconsin? Not to mention the results. Sorry, go ahead, Paige.
And barely beat Army.
We kicked the shit out of them for 18 out of 19 years. Yet we're just still like, we're the beaten wife. I don't know if that's okay to say anymore.
And that's why it's the best rivalry in college football, man.
No, you're right. I mean, you can tell we've given away our age and what era Ohio State fans we are because of that. I mean, if you are in school now or you graduated from Ohio State anywhere within the last 15 to 18 years, you're like, guys, what are you worried about? I mean, it's Michigan.
Right.
Big deal.
The same people that don't know what an actual plug into the wall telephone landline.
Yeah, or you never went to a Virgin Megastore to shop for music, but yeah, I mean, but it does concern me because of where it falls on the schedule, and if the Penn State game is kind of true to form of the last 3 years, and it is very competitive, and it does take a little something out of Ohio State, then we go to Ann Arbor slightly diminished. And big shout out to the Big Ten schedule makers who seem to not want to put a Big Ten team in the playoff for the way the schedule shakes out. I mean, a couple of years we had that consecutive seasons 2015 and 2016 where we had Michigan State and Michigan in back-to-back weeks, which was just stupid. Anyway, we've covered that.
I do like that they put it I know it's all about Fox, but the noon kickoff of Penn State gives us that much more time to rest for the noon kickoff against Michigan.
I personally, the night games have gotten stale for me. I like the early games here. They're a 9 a.m. start. I can watch the game and have the rest of my day. I don't know. I guess if you have kids and you've got swimming meets to go to and tennis matches and stuff, it sucks. But for me, I kind of like the earlier kicks. Hey guys, listen. This has
been a good one, boys. Love being on here with you guys today.
Absolutely,
man. PBH, keep the dream alive. Z.
Yep,
have a good weekend, man.
You too, Paige. Paige, I know it's been a long day for you. Thanks so much, man, for making the time. It's really awesome to have you on. We love having your takes and your knowledge and your humor, everything that you bring to this podcast. So thanks so much for making the time.
Let's hope Jimmy makes it back from Mexico alive.
Yeah. Viva la Jimmy. Viva la Jimmy.
And we'll have someone put an APB out for Gallagher. He was a total Gallagher, total no-show tonight. Yeah, someone please put him on a milk carton.
We're falling by a race out here.
All right, boys.
All right, go Bucks, boys.
All right, love you, fellas. Thanks so much for making the time. Go Bucks. I'll talk to you on Sunday.